in poverty and orphanhood. On a hot summer day in 1883, in the town of Saumur, France, a girl named Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel was born. Nobody knew that this small and poor girl would one day build a big empire in the world of fashion, and her name would become timeless in history. Gabrielle was born into a poor family. Her father, Albert Chanel, was a traveling salesman, and her mother, Eugenie Jean Duval, washed clothes to earn money for the family. Their life had many problems. From orphanage to night cafes. Fate became harder for Gabrielle when she was 12 years old. Her mother died from tuberculosis, and her father, who was not responsible, left Gabrielle and her two sisters in an orphanage in Aubazine. Gabrielle was sent to a cold and lifeless convent, a place full of scary silence and dead stone hallways, where the sound of the nuns' footsteps echoed, and the church bell was the only sound at night. In that difficult time, the nuns taught Gabrielle sewing. The needle and thread became her first tools for building a different future. In the dark and cold world of the convent, Gabrielle moved step by step towards a different future. Within those cold walls, a woman was forming who would one day change the world of fashion. With every stitch she put into the fabric, Gabrielle was not only sewing clothes but also weaving her destiny. The sadness of losing her mother left a deep wound in Gabrielle's heart, a wound that never fully healed. But this pain gave her an inner strength to overcome difficulties and move forward. The hard years in the orphanage taught Gabrielle to be independent and to fight with all her heart to achieve her dreams. She learned that even when the world seemed cruel, she could keep going. These lessons shaped the strong and brave character of Gabrielle, a character that later became a symbol of women who broke the limits with their will and creativity and changed history. After leaving the convent at the age of 18 years old, Gabrielle went to the town of Moulins to build her life. She started working in a sewing workshop and tried to improve her sewing skills. But life was not just about sewing. At night, Gabrielle sang in small and bright cafes in Paris. These cafes were a different world for her, full of the dim light of lamps, the sound of laughter, and the smell of coffee and tobacco. Every time she went on stage, she sang with a shaky but hopeful voice. She wished that one day her name would be known all over the world, and her voice would reach everyone. Two songs were more popular for Gabrielle, Coco Rico, and Qu'est-vous Coco. These songs became popular among the people, and gradually the name, Coco, became Gabrielle's nickname. Chanel later said in an interview that the name, Coco, came from the French word, cocotte. At that time, this word meant a mistress or a prostitute, and it reminded her of the hard days of her life. This nickname was a symbol of the past that she had left behind with effort and will, a past full of hardship and struggle. By accepting this name, Gabrielle somehow embraced her past as part of her identity. This period shaped the basics of Chanel's unique character and style. She gradually entered the world of fashion and, with her talent and hard work, started a path that led to great success. The name, Coco Chanel, remained in history not only as a singer but also as a fashion designer and a symbol of femininity. Early work experiences and entry into the world of fashion. Working in the sewing workshop was only the beginning for Gabrielle. With great seriousness and hard work, she expanded her skills in sewing and designing clothes. Chanel learned how to turn fabrics into clothes that women could wear comfortably and confidently. She designed clothes that were not only beautiful but also practical and freeing. Life was full of challenges for Gabrielle. She was a woman from the lower class who wanted to find her place in the world of fashion, a society that had many limits for women. Her relationship with Etienne Balsan, a wealthy horse rider, was a turning point in her life. Balsan not only supported Chanel financially but also introduced her to aristocratic and cultural circles. This connection gave Gabrielle the opportunity to meet artists and wealthy men and women, and her view of fashion and life changed. By entering these circles, Chanel's confidence increased, and new opportunities for progress in the world of fashion became available to her. The most important and influential relationship in Coco's life was with Arthur Boy Capel, an English, wealthy and handsome man who believed in Chanel's talent and ambition. Boy Capel was not only the love of Chanel's life but also her financial and emotional supporter. With his support, Chanel was able to open her first hat shop on Rue Cambon in Paris and gradually enter the world of fashion. This was the beginning of a path that turned Chanel into one of the biggest names in fashion history. With her hard work and his support, Coco Chanel soon managed to introduce her own style and gain a special place in the world of fashion. Challenges and early successes, and the birth of the Iron Woman. Chanel faced many challenges in her career, from contemptuous looks at women who sang or were seamstresses, to social limits for lower-class women. But with an iron will and special talent, she managed to overcome these obstacles and create a unique place for herself in the world of fashion. One of her important innovations was the use of jersey fabrics, soft, comfortable and cheap fabrics that were previously used only in men's underwear. With her creativity, Chanel turned these fabrics into simple, practical and chic clothes that freed women from heavy and restrictive styles. This smart choice became the foundation of her lasting and timeless style. Chanel's elegant, chic, and simple hats quickly caught the attention of Parisian women, and her popularity among young women increased. Her designs were simple, free, and unpretentious, allowing women to have their own unique style. Using simple ribbons, flowers, and feathers, she made hats that were both beautiful and practical. But at the height of this success, a great tragedy occurred. Arthur Capel, the love of Chanel's life, died in a car accident in December 1919. When Chanel heard the news of Boy Capel's death, she felt like her world had stopped. She lost the love of her life and felt that all her dreams had been destroyed. But in the midst of that sorrow, a spark of will lit up and pushed her forward. Chanel could not let Boy's death be the end of her journey. She was broken, but she emerged stronger than ever from within. Chanel later said, "I never really loved anyone else after him." And she added, perhaps if Boy had lived, would never have become Chanel. Revolution in fashion. The rise of the modern woman. In the 1920s, Coco Chanel started a revolution in the world of fashion that changed the definition of femininity forever. She designed clothes that freed women from the constraints of heavy and structured garments and introduced a new style of womanhood. By shortening skirts, removing corsets, and using light and comfortable fabrics, Chanel allowed women to move more freely and express their personal style. Her designs were initially met with surprise and even ridicule, but young women quickly found freedom and comfort in Chanel's clothes. This change in style created a new wave on the streets of Paris and pushed women towards independence and self-expression. Chanel sometimes took inspiration from men's clothing and combined it with feminine elegance to create a balance between power and beauty. In 1926, she introduced the little black dress, a simple, chic, and timeless dress that became a symbol of modern femininity. Chanel said, "Simplicity is the keynote of all true elegance. A perfume for eternity." In 1921, Coco Chanel collaborated with the Russian perfumer Ernest Bose to create a perfume that became a legend, Chanel No. 5. This scent was a combination of more than 80 different fragrances that was neither completely floral nor artificial, rather it displayed the essence of complex and powerful femininity. Chanel named this perfume No. 5, because she believed in the number 5 and introduced it on the 5th day of the 5th month. Chanel No. 5 was not just a perfume, it was the unspoken language of the women's revolution. This fragrance was first introduced with Marilyn Monroe as its advertising face and became a global symbol. With this perfume, Chanel offered a new definition of femininity and taught women how to express their personality with a special and unique scent. The golden decade of the 1920s was Chanel's time to shine, a time when she established her revolutionary style and redefined modern fashion. Chanel freed women from stiff corsets, a bold move that marked the beginning of their physical and mental freedom. Her clothes harmonized with the natural shape of women's bodies, bringing freedom of movement. She shortened skirts, a symbolic act that at the time represented women's rebellion and independence. By combining masculine elements like collars, buttons, and thick fabrics in women's clothing, she broke the boundaries between genders. Chanel's clothes were both comfortable and chic. For a woman who was active in society, not just at parties. A fresh style combining feminine elegance and masculine power, a new image of an independent woman who didn't need approval. In 1926, Chanel revolutionized the fashion world by introducing the LBD, a black, simple, and short dress. By removing unnecessary decorations, the LBD turned simplicity into elegance and became a symbol of chicness. Vogue magazine compared this dress to the Ford Model T, a simple, widespread, and revolutionary design. She believed, simplicity is the keynote of all true elegance, a principle well represented in the LBD. Chanel's clothes were not just coverings, they were tools for changing society's view of women. Chanel wanted a perfume that was like her, complex, lasting, and timeless. In 1921, she collaborated with Russian court perfumer Ernest Bose to create her dream. From 20 samples, Chanel chose No. 5, a perfume that was a fresh combination of tradition and boldness. It was the first time that aldehydes were widely used in a women's perfume, a distinct and lasting scent. A simple, clear, and minimalist appearance, just like its scent, different and perfect. Chanel No. 5 was not just a perfume, it became a legend that remained at the top for decades. Chanel said, "A woman who doesn't wear perfume has no future." And Chanel No. 5 built the future for her. Coco Chanel was not just a fashion designer, but also one of the influential figures of the 20th century in the world of art and culture. She had close relationships with the great artists of her time and was part of Paris's creative circles. She had a close collaboration with the famous French writer, poet, and director Jean Cocteau, and designed costumes for several of his plays and films. Chanel also financially supported Igor Stravinsky, a prominent Russian composer. She even housed him in her home for a while, which showed Chanel's interest in music and art. She designed costumes for the famous ballets Russes, managed by Sergei Diaghilev. These collaborations show Chanel's connection with the performing arts. It is said that she also had meetings and conversations with Pablo Picasso. Although no direct collaboration between them is recorded, these connections further illustrate Chanel's cultural standing. Chanel became a prominent artistic figure of her time, not just as a fashion designer, but as a supporter and inspiration to artists. She resided in the luxurious Ritz Hotel in Paris, a hotel that was then one of the main centers of aristocratic and cultural life. War, accusation, and years of exile. With the start of World War II in 1939, Chanel closed all her stores and laid off thousands of her employees. She said, "This is no time for fashion." During the occupation of Paris, she remained in the Ritz Hotel, where many German officers were also staying. Chanel entered into a relationship with Baron von Dinklage, a German intelligence officer. This relationship later led to serious accusations against her. She was accused of collaborating with the Nazis. Although there was no definitive evidence to prove it, this damaged her reputation. During the war, she tried to use Nazi laws to regain full ownership of Chanel No. 5 perfume from the Jewish Wertheimer family, but she was unsuccessful. After the liberation of France, Chanel was arrested and interrogated, but she was released very quickly. It is said that Winston Churchill played a role in her release. She then went to Switzerland and lived there for years, away from the hustle and bustle of Paris and the fashion world. Triumphant return and timeless legacy. In 1954, at the age of 71, Chanel returned to the fashion world with incredible determination. Her return was met with a cold reception in France. Critics considered her style outdated, and fashion was dominated by Christian Dior's new look. But in America, Chanel's free and practical style was welcomed again, and her brand soon became global. During this period, she created or revived the lasting symbols of her brand, the tweed suit, the chain-strap bag, two-tone shoes, and the timeless Chanel woman style. These designs reflected the same values that Chanel had always been faithful to: freedom, comfort, chicness, and feminine independence. In her final years, Chanel was alone despite her great success. She never married and had no children. However, she remained active until the last day of her life. She continued to design in her suite at the Ritz Hotel and her studio on Rue Cambon. Coco Chanel passed away on January 10, 1971, at the age of 87. The world lost one of the greatest designers in history. After her death, the Chanel brand experienced a decline, but in 1983, with the arrival of Karl Lagerfeld as creative director, it flourished again. Lagerfeld, by combining loyalty to Chanel's archives with modern creativity, brought the brand to its peak and turned it into one of the most powerful names in the fashion world. Chanel had famously described the essence of success with this quote, "In order to be irreplaceable, one must always be different." She was not just a designer, but a symbol of a woman who, with courage, broke traditions and showed women a new path. Thank you for joining us until the end of this story. We hope Chanel's story inspires you on your path of life and creativity. If you liked this story, please like, write your comment, and follow our channel for more stories. And if this narrative inspired you, share it with your friends and loved ones. Perhaps it will be an inspiration for them too.